Hello, my friends. I hope you guys had a good month of May. I know I did. For some reason, I read 10 books this month, which is highly unusual. But I'm going to attribute it to no classes, everything's closed, and I'm procrastinating hardcore on my thesis. So that's why I've read a lot of books. It's not normal. Like, I haven't read 10 books in a month in a very long time. So there are 10 books, but I'm not going to review all of them because that would take way too long. So I've just chosen 5 or 6 to talk about, and the rest, I'll just put like a little star rating beside them at the end of the video. Actually, this month there's a couple challenges, and the first one I want to talk about is the Asian Readathon, which took place throughout all of May to commemorate Asian Heritage Month. I didn't follow all the prompts because there were 4 prompts, and I just wanted to read some books, and I read 4 books for this challenge. I'm just going to talk about 2 of those books for the sake of time. And the first one that I read for this challenge is Kafka on the Shore by Haruki Murakami. This was my first Murakami book, and I don't know if that's where I should have started. I didn't enjoy it as much as I thought I would, and I'm hoping most of that was because I read it on my laptop. So when I was reading it, I hadn't discovered Libby yet, so I read it on the laptop. It was a terrible time. I hated it because I had to bring my laptop with me around the house to read it, and it was not fun. I was really expecting to like Murakami, but it was just the first book that I read from him, and I think I'll read at least 2 more books by Murakami, and I would actually really appreciate it if you guys suggested your favorite Murakami books, knowing that I've only read 1, and that one is Kafka on the Shore. Now, this book is a magical realism book, so it's adult fiction. There were some parts that I really enjoyed. There was some really weird parts in it that took me out of the story, like hold on, there might be some spoilers. If you plan on reading this book, you should skip ahead to this timestamp or when you don't see the book on the screen anymore. But the parts that I didn't like about the book was there were some really weird parts of it. Like, there was a rape scene that was like, it contributed nothing, I think. Well, I guess it did contribute to the prophecy, but it was just really bizarre, and I don't know, just maybe my bad feelings toward the book were that it was my first Murakami and I didn't know what to expect, and everyone had hyped it so much that when I read this and was really uncomfortable and turned off by it, maybe that's what the book was supposed to do, is make you feel uncomfortable. Maybe. Yeah, I don't want to even talk about it anymore, so I'm going to skip on to the next book that I read, and that is The Girl with 7 Names, a North Korean defector's story. I really enjoyed this book. Like I said in my previous videos, I love to read memoirs where I learn something about a place I haven't been to, or a different country, or cultural differences, and this book did that. I learned a bit about North Korea and their relations with China, and a little bit of their relations with the other countries more towards Southeast Asia, and it makes me want to read more memoirs about North Korean defectors just so I could see and compare it. And I think this is also an unusual case. And what I mean by that is the author came from a very well-to-do family in North Korea, and she wasn't trying to leave North Korea intentionally. It was completely by accident that she left and couldn't come back. So her circumstances were really bizarre, and she would have preferred to go back to North Korea when she discovered that she couldn't go back. So it was really different, I feel like, than what most defectors' stories would be like. So I am really looking forward to reading more books about North Korean defectors just to compare, because like I said, the author had really bizarre circumstances for leaving. Actually, I kind of just want to touch on the third book that I read for Asian Readathon. and that's The Three Body Problem. And I did mention this in my book haul video, and I read it right away because I was really excited to read it. And I really enjoyed this book, and I am really wanting to go buy the second and third, but I've been telling myself to hold off because maybe I'll find it in the thrift store. Maybe. Because I can't keep paying full price for books. And the thrift store is finally open, so hopefully I'll find it. So this book is hard sci-fi book. So there's a lot of elements of physics in here, and there's a little bit of engineering and stuff and math, and I really enjoyed those parts. But the main character was a little bit hard to relate to, and there were some weird parts in the book where things seemed super convenient. Like there was one main character who had extreme ideologies, and he just happened to inherit a bunch of money to carry out his extreme ideologies. So it was like, this was a bit of a stretch, and there were a couple incidences like that were like, okay, that worked out really nicely for you, but what? But if you can get past those plot holes, which there are a few of them, especially towards the end where everything's kind of convenient, then it is an enjoyable book. I am looking forward to reading the second and third one, and I think it's just a trilogy, so hopefully I can finish it up by the end of the year. And I am definitely going to read more sci-fi. Yeah! Now I just wanted to mention the fourth book that I read for Asian Readathon, and that is I Am Malala, and that was an audiobook that I borrowed from my local library. And I didn't realize until the very end when I finished it and I went to go look at it in Goodreads that it was the young readers version. That was so sad. But I read it and I learned a lot. Like, I'd heard about her before in high school and like a little bit through college, but I didn't know the reason that she was such a big name. Now I do. And thank you to Asian Readathon, I guess. I reached for some books that I usually wouldn't have. Okay, so for the next couple of books that I'm going to talk about, these were not part of the Asian Readathon. These were just books that I wanted to read. And the first ones I want to mention are the Hunger Games trilogy. So I did give these, or actually, I'm going to be finishing this probably today or tomorrow. That's why it's on here. So I reread these in preparation for the new release of the new book. I think they aged well. They kept well. I remember when I first read them that the second one was my favorite, and it's still my favorite book. Oh, this one. Oh, they're not in order. There we go. Now they're in order. But yes, the second one is still my favorite. As I read these, I watched movies that night with my partner, and he is really pushing me to finish Mockingjay so we can watch the movies. Yeah, it was really fun to reread them. I find Katniss relatable because she's so one-track minded, and she's sharp, but she's also kind of oblivious to other people's feelings, which I am sadly sometimes the same way. But I just wanted to mention that I had reread them, and I'm going to be reading the prequel in the next couple weeks, and maybe I'll put a review for that. There's a lot of those out right now, so maybe I won't do a review video. We'll see. Maybe if I have strong feelings about it, maybe I'll do a review. We'll see. I'm kind of scared to read it because, like I said, it was a fun reread. So I think the last book that I'm going to talk about is Cersei by Madeline Miller, and I listened to that as an audiobook I bought from Audible. And man, it was a long book, but it was so much fun. And while I was listening to it, I couldn't wait to go fold the laundry or do the dishes so I could listen to the audiobook. Partly because the narrator, her voice was so mesmerizing. Like, it was so calming but fun. It was like an elder was telling me a story, and I enjoyed it so much. So if you're looking for audiobook, I highly recommend Cersei. And I've heard the same for Madeline Miller's other book, Song of Achilles. And I think it's the same narrators too, so I may or may not pick that up using my credit. But I also learned a lot listening to the book. I don't know much about Greek mythology at all, and it was really fun how it was told through this audiobook. So I learned a lot of things about different Greek gods. Man, that story, it was just a good story. It was very cozy. It kind of had the vibes of The Hobbit, where you are like cozy, but like you're having fun and it's an adventure. So I really enjoyed Cersei. I did read 3 other books this month, and I'll put them right here just so you could see which ones that I read. I didn't have really strong feelings about them. That's why I'm not talking about them right now. But if you are interested to hear my thoughts about them, then let me know in the comments, and I'd be glad to maybe do a separate May wrap up part 2, just because this video would otherwise be really long. Well, thanks for dropping in. Let me know what you read for Asian Readathon, if you participated or not. And let me know if you liked any of the books that I mentioned, because I do want to talk about these books with you guys. So thanks for tuning in again, and I'll be seeing you next week talking about more books. So thanks and have a good day. Bye.